What's going on, everybody? Good afternoon. Hope you guys are doing well on this Friday. And I thought that now would be a good time to explore the possibility of the Seattle Seahawks adding another offensive lineman, because now that we're here and we know that George Fant hasn't practiced yet this week, we can safely conclude that he is actually injured in some non-trivial way. I'm bearish on him playing this week, and who knows what we're going to get going forward. So that, combined with the play of our two guards on Sunday's game, has some people wondering, what can we do to improve this offensive line right now? So I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about that here. I'm going to explore it a little bit. So a couple elements of this discussion that I think need to be dismissed right now. The first is a trade. You're not going to be able to trade for a good offensive lineman right now. We are not even 2 weeks into the season. Even if you get to next week, you're at that point 2 weeks in. Every team will have played 2 games. No team is going to give up a good offensive lineman that early in the season. If there is a team that is willing to do that, you're going to have to wait until closer to the deadline, when a team maybe is like 1-6, 1-7, 0-8, or something like that, to where they can go, you know what, this season is obviously not going to go the way we wanted it to go. Let's go get an asset for this good offensive lineman we have. But right now, anybody who would be available on the trading market is someone who is probably not good. So I'm not really thinking about that. And as for guard, the left guard and right guard spots, because those are the 2 spots where the play was noticeably poor on Sunday, I think it wouldn't make any sense to trade for or acquire somebody new when you have Christian Haynes on the bench. If you're thinking about getting one of those guys out of the starting lineup, Christian Haynes should be the next man up. There's no reason to think that anybody you could go get right now would be better than Christian Haynes, especially because Christian Haynes has been practicing with this team for the last several months, whereas anybody you bring in now will have only been with the team for, well, a couple of days. So I don't think those things are particularly worth discussing, as long as you have Haynes on the bench, a 3rd-round pick that was relatively well received in training camp, relatively well received in the preseason. If you're going to make a swap at that spot, the guy who you should swap to is already there. So it's really all about right tackle, and it's really all about signing somebody in free agency. Abe Lucas out for at least the next 3 games because he's on IR. George Fant, he's hurt. We don't know how long he'll be out. Maybe he'll play this weekend, but it doesn't look good. What do we do there? So, quite frankly, if you want to get somebody relatively high profile, your best bet is looking at the left tackle list. You're going to try to find a left tackle that is willing to move over to the right side here. So I'm on Spotrac. I'm looking at the list of available left tackles from last season. Let me try to zoom in a little bit here, make it look a little bit better. So we've got 5 guys listed here on Spotrac that are currently unsigned, that remain available, that haven't, to my knowledge, officially announced retirement. And even if they have, they could probably be convinced out of it for the right price. So first guy would be David Bakhtiari, who played a good amount of football 2 years ago, almost 600 snaps. PFF graded him out well. Of course, all of it was at left tackle. And then in 2023, by the way, he played 55 snaps and then was done. Played well, I guess, right? But David Bakhtiari, 33 years old, about to turn 33 years old. Probably not a lot left in that tank. And he's probably not interested in coming out to the West Coast to move to the right side. And that's going to be the hard point of this entire video. A lot of these guys have spent their whole career playing on the left side, or a vast majority of it. You're convincing them to change positions, which they may not be willing to do. And even if they're willing to do it, they may not be very good at it. It is a different thing to have to be a right tackle than a left tackle. DJ Humphries, last year, played a lot of football, played passably well for the, I believe this was the Cardinals. Yeah, the Cardinals. Almost 1,000 snaps over on the left side. But again, this is a left tackle thing. And it's not like he was great last year, right? We are talking about a guy who's going to be 31 before the end of this season. He is on the wrong side of 30. So you are still kind of talking about somebody who you think about, okay, he's 1 year older. He's moving to the other side of the line. He's going to be playing with players that he's never played with before, that he only met a couple days ago in some cases. So, is that really going to be better than what you're getting right now out of even somebody like Stone Forsythe? And that's the question we have to ask ourselves. Is what we would get out of player X significantly better than Stone Forsythe? Because it better be significant. It better not be marginal. If it's marginal, then what's the point when it's going to cost you money that you need to extend players next season? And that's going to be another crux of our conversation as we go along here. You have Charles Leno. He's about to turn 33 as well. He's another guy who's definitely getting up there in age. He played a lot of football last year and played it fairly respectably. 72.5 PFF grade. Again, everything at left tackle. I think he's played almost his entire career at left tackle. So, what do you lose when you move him over to the right side and ask him to play with brand new players? You definitely lose something. Our old buddy, Dwayne Brown, 39 years old now. This is an extreme example of somebody who has gotten really, really old here. Granted, there is an argument to be made that some players benefit from going from the left side to the right side when they get older because it's a little bit easier. I don't know if that's really going to be the case for some players like this who are so used to playing on the left side. By the way, Dwayne Brown barely played last year, and what he played was seemingly quite bad. A lot of people blame him for the Rodgers injury, and he was out of there pretty quickly after that. If you go back to 2022, it's a little bit better. It's a little bit more manageable, but again, this is another guy who spent his whole career on the left side. And then you have Donovan Smith, who, I mean, hey, he won a Super Bowl last year. He started most of the season at left tackle for the Chiefs. Didn't grade out terribly well, but, I mean, it wasn't awful, right? It was manageable. It was workable. And he's 31. That's not the end of the world, but he is a bigger guy. He is a bigger, slower guy. Not really a scheme fit. Not really somebody that I think you want to add to this offensive line rotation expecting something significantly better than Stone Forsythe. So those are your options if you're thinking about signing somebody from this pool. And the issue is, this is the primary pool that you have to work with here, because if you go over to the right tackle list on Spotrac, there are literally two names. There's two names, Billy Turner and David Kessenberry. Billy Turner had a decent career, but he's about to turn 33. He barely played last year. It was mostly at right tackle, granted, but he did not play particularly well. You go back to the previous year, a little bit better, played about half the season, not terrible, workable. You got to go back to 2021 to find a season where PFF actually thinks he played pretty decently. And that was many, many years ago, many, many miles ago. So, Billy Turner, are you saying he's better than Stone Forsythe? I mean, maybe, but you were talking about a marginal improvement that might be completely outweighed by the fact that you're throwing him into a foreign offense to him. You're throwing him in with teammates that he has zero familiarity with. At least Forsythe has practiced with these guys. At least he's been in the building the last few months. Kessenberry also, by the way, 34 years old over here. Played a little bit last year. Played seemingly competently. Decent swing tackle. The year before that, it's okay. Played a decent chunk of the season. You go back to 2021, that was the last year they thought he played particularly well over at right tackle. But again, that's a long time ago. So that's really it. I'm not seeing anything here that jumps off the page to me as like, okay, that is going to be a significant enough improvement over what we have to warrant spending the money it would take to get them over here. And maybe somebody like Billy Turner or Kessenberry would play for the veteran minimum. That might be viable. But then you have to wonder, how long is it going to take for them to work themselves into game shape? How long is it going to take for them to even be able to try to play on our team? And is it going to matter before Abe Lucas gets back? Is it going to matter before George Fant gets back? Because these guys aren't going to come here to sit on the bench. Now, if you look at just like the tackle list, the pure tackle list, they have a few names that weren't listed on the initial two lists because they're considered pure swing tackles. A lot of them not super interesting, super compelling. You got guys like Cam Fleming, PFF, go over here. Played a little bit for Denver last year, was okay. Didn't play a lot. Turned 32 a few days ago. Actually played well in 2022. Almost 1,000 snaps, graded out well. Left tackle, right tackle. This one's not bad. This one isn't too bad. I don't think he's a very good scheme fit, but this one would not be the end of the world. And then you've got another Cameron Irving over in New Orleans. He played a little bit last year and was pretty bad, to be perfectly honest, but he was playing at right tackle. He played a little bit in 2022. Nothing stand out here. It's thin, right? I'm looking at a lot of these other names as well. These are guys that I'm not really familiar with at all. Prince Tega, Juanan Hogo, Dennis Daly, Matt Nelson. I don't really think there's much to say about guys like this. You've got a couple like complete unknowns like Coy Cronk, Andrew Trainer. Like these are guys who haven't really done anything. And the reality is, while Stone Forsythe is a very limited player, he has experience on this team. He has experience playing with his team. He's got experience with these players, with these teammates. And what you have to ask yourself is this. The Seahawks, they did free up cap space earlier this week with the DK Metcalf restructure, but that money could go to improve the offensive line now. And I put improve in quotation marks because it may not be an improvement. But what if that money is being earmarked to extend one of these really good players on the team next year so we don't lose them? What if it's being earmarked to roll over into 2025 so you can extend Charles Cross, extend Reek Woolen, extend Boye Mafe, take care of DK Metcalf's extension, take care of Geno Smith's extension? These are realistic possibilities. So are you willing to give up some of that to bring in an offensive lineman who might be a marginal improvement over Stone Forsythe right now? When you know help is coming, when you know Fant will be back, when you know that Lucas will be back at some point, and none of these guys are likely to be noticeably better than George Fant on a good day. Like, I'm just being realistic here. I know Fant looked bad against the Broncos for that first quarter that he was in there, but there's no reason to believe that Fant is going to be significantly worse than any of the any guy we've gone over in this video, really. Because those, I mean, if these guys were good, they'd be on teams, right? Ask yourself why these guys are available right now. Connor Williams was an exception because he didn't want to sign until he felt like he was reasonably healthy. Connor Williams, that was a rare occasion of somebody who was actually good being available late in the offseason. These guys have gotten old. These guys haven't played particularly well in recent seasons. That's why they're available. So it's kind of a grass is always greener thing, right? You think that this offensive lineman that is outside the Seahawks must be much better than the guys the Seahawks have because the Seahawks offensive line looks so bad, but in reality, they're probably not. And yeah, I do think that includes Forsythe, who I don't think played very well on Sunday, but there are strengths to his game. He showed the ability to run block. He showed the ability to be a, you could run the ball over to his side of the field. So I don't see it. I don't think there's any money that you can spend on a free agent that is going to make this much better. Maybe I'd go after a guy like a Billy Turner for veteran minimum. That's about as far as I would go. He's somebody who's actually got experience at right tackle. He's somebody who has played decent football somewhat recently. But everyone else, I wouldn't even really consider it all that much. Most of them won't play for vet min, by the way. David Bakhtiari's probably enjoying retirement, or pseudo-retirement. He's not coming out of retirement to play for the minimum. Why would he do that? A lot of these guys have made a lot of money in their career. It's not that big of a deal. They don't feel some desperate need to play football this year, I don't think. All right. So, yeah, my evaluation of this is that right now the offensive line is what it is. I think that if we get close to the deadline and the offensive line is still playing really poorly and we feel like the team is a decent offensive line away from contending, then you try to find a really bad team and see if you can shake an offensive lineman loose. But right now, I don't think that's going to happen. And I don't see the meaningful improvements in free agency. So let me know what you guys think, though. I'll see you guys later. Go Hawks. More videos coming later.